Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Token City Show. Tonight with us is Gabriel Jaccard. He is the founder and CEO of Arbitri, a Swiss one-stop shop for crypto and blockchain. He is the vice president of the Good Token Society and a lecturer at the Haute, école de Gestion de Genève. Hello Gabriel, welcome to the show.
Hello Javier, thanks for having me.
Good to have you. Let's begin by talking about the fact that Switzerland is very reputed as a country in the blockchain space because of its forward-looking regulation that enables tokenized digital assets. Can you tell us what are the legal innovations that characterize the Swiss tokenization industry?
Absolutely. So it's quite complicated actually to summarize all the different aspects of the Swiss regulation, and I don't want to bore you out, with tons of text of law. But what I would say with regard to the approach that we have in Switzerland is a functional approach. We try to see crypto as just another industry that we want to see succeed and flourish because it's based on fundamentals that are good. So the law has taken this approach of being kind of generalistic with regard to crypto, trying to embed it within its core instead of legislating, for example, with like specific regulation. Just create one regulation and say, okay, we solve the problem. No, we try to actually see crypto as this kind of general thing, this general tech that is coming, like you would have like a mobile cell phone technology coming up, having impact on different level of the law. Let me be eventually a bit more concrete. The key points and the cool thing that we have with regard to the law in Switzerland is, for example, that you can create a company with crypto. You don't need to open bank accounts. So the possibility, for example, to have all the asset in a self-custody type of situation where you just like create a company, only with crypto, have a self-custodial wallet, and have no banking relationship. Those type of things are possible under Swiss law. You will have a few challenges that will be overcome more and more with time. For example, the fact that you will need to still keep an accounting in Swiss franc, but it's you have more and more service provider, and we have like great service provider in Switzerland and Geneva in particular, where we can actually make it work. Besides that, Switzerland has been super well known at some points to be the first to kind of define what is a token from a regulatory perspective. In 2017 and 18, the FINMA actually discussed and then released an ICO guideline, which has been, a very key regulatory pieces for many other authorities around the world. And now one of the key things that we really have is this notion of securities token, tokenized rights. So basically any rights can be tokenized. And we have an example of this, for example, for companies willing to, when it has been created, for example, only with crypto, they want to tokenize their shares, meaning that they want to have shares instead of being, on a piece of paper like we used to do in the old time. Now you have as a title this token that works actually as a piece of paper, as a new medium for the 21st century. Besides that, we have also many examples where we represent property, where we have now bill of lading that can be also tokenized. So many interesting examples, and I believe that would be a satisfactory answer, I believe, for your first question, even though I could go on.
Yeah, no. It is a satisfactory question. 2017, 2018 is almost prehistoric. It's very forward-looking for a country to issue guidelines on those years. So also, I understand that you proposed a motion to amend regulation regarding tokenization in Switzerland. What can you tell us about that?
So, long story short, the idea was to say that as of my practice, I see that one of the key elements that people really want to have is this regulatory certainty. This legislative proposal is a proposal at the level of the Geneva Parliament that was passed recently, and the idea behind that is to cover the whole chain of the needs that we'll have in this crypto industry. What does it mean? So basically, we have several needs. The first one is that we need to have, for example, education. We need to have people that are competent in this domain, in those domains, because it's a multi-domain approach. We need to have competent people that knows the blockchain industry and with regard to the governance, for example, with regard to the regulation, with regard to the technicity about how to create smart contracts, how to create good smart contracts, how to audit them, for example. And we try to tackle education. We try to tackle also to create what we call a safe harbor for blockchain companies, and most importantly, protocol that have this global view and that have those global ambition to find some kind of a safe harbor in Geneva, this city that is known for being, an international standard-setting city, if you enable me this expression, because we have so many non-governmental organizations and standard-setting bodies here. So it's a legislative proposal. The idea is that we facilitate the life of blockchain entrepreneur by providing them the whole chain of their needs, education, legal certainty, improve regulatory environment, notably by also having a potential tax break, and by also providing them with a reliable list of service provider that will be able to actually tackle the global uncertainty that their business poses today. If I would like to actually maybe add up a little something here, is that we often see Zug and the Swiss-German part as being the leader of the Switzerland, and I believe many people wants to go there, and notably because they've been the first to have the Ethereum Foundation being settled there. And it's true that we all, in Switzerland, we all fight under the same flag. But Geneva, when you really think of it, has a very long history and has this incredible ecosystem whenever we talk about, international project. And blockchain is really an international project for people that wants to actually develop something in the blockchain industry. They have this global view, this worldwide view. And there are actually very few places on Earth when we actually discussed this internationality as well as in Geneva. Maybe the problem that we have in Geneva is that we have a culture where we try not to be too proud of ourselves. We don't really brag about all the great things that we have here, but the city is known as this global standard-setting cities, and it has been for a long time. And this is what we do, for example, at the Good Token Society. We try to also give a voice to this vibrant ecosystem that we have here, and that I can also talk a little bit more on later.
On that note that you mentioned, the ecosystem, you mentioned Geneva in particular. So what can you tell us from, you are in a privileged position to assess the ecosystem not only in Geneva but in the rest of the country? What can you tell us about that from the startup perspective?
So the numbers are very interesting to look at, because we can see that basically the number of startup doubles in terms of investment and number every year. We have an amazing offer on many levels. So, for example, if I am only speaking about the institutional, we now have banks, Signum, Seba. They're known worldwide. Seba is now known as Amina. They had to change the name. We have some institutional stakeholders. For example, I'm thinking about Taurus. They created this centralized platform for securities token that any retail investor can, for example, where any retail investor can actually get a securities token and trade securities token. We have Metaco, who's been bought out by Ripple. We have also some sometimes unknown giant like Giga, which is a partnership between UNHCR and ITU. Also some stakeholders like Wecan. Basically, Wecan have created a range of services for super institutional. The biggest bank in Switzerland used their service because they just simplified compliance, and they did a great ICO recently. So that would be for the institutional. Besides that, we have a real vibrant ecosystem of smaller stakeholders, and those are very precious actually, because they are usually made up of very innovative and very bold type of entrepreneur, like the true type of entrepreneur that you like to encounter. So I'm on the top of my head, I'm really thinking of a few, but for example, we have the cyber gold. So we tokenize gold, for example, in Switzerland, so you can directly own a token that actually represents a gold bar somewhere, deposited somewhere in a bank or by a depositor in Switzerland. We have also the DeFi version of that, where you actually have an ETH that is actually deposited on a smart contract, so you don't have any physical deposit. You have an ETH deposited in a smart contract with a token that actually tracks the value of gold, meaning that you have basically DeFi gold. So those, it's a cyber gold. It's an association called Cifero, based in Geneva. We have also some guys who recently tried to actually tokenize water. We have this great regulatory framework where we can tokenize basically everything. Geneva in particular is the great tokenization hub. And it can go on and on. You have, for example, also Wakweli, this decentralized certification. So we have many stakeholders in the tokenization sector, also tackling, for example, different aspects. If you see a company like Lake Tree Company that tries to tokenize water based on the source that they own, you have a great tokenization example of also things that we can do in Switzerland. But so that would be one side, so securitizing and tokenizing water. Another side would be, okay, how can we make sure that everything we see on the blockchain is actually true and valid? And you have a project like Wakweli, this kind of decentralized certification mechanism that is amazing. You have also the whole point of art. Switzerland with Basel is a great place for art, known around the world on an equal stage with, for example, biggest city like Miami. So Basel plays in this league, and we have, for example, in Geneva this platform led by professional called Wise Art, where we have curated tokenized collection and work of art that really use the whole potential of blockchain to actually find some value in this chain. So we have some great actors, and we have really a privileged position to see all those flowers flourish here and there. And I would say that one of the key points that actually makes it happen is that we have an easy access to authorities when we need to discuss law, when we need to actually find out an answer with regard to a concrete case. The authorities, they're really responsive with regard to what people do, and they also want to make you succeed somehow, which is quite different than in many other countries where you have this kind of antagonistic approach where the authority is kind of seen as an enemy. I won't say it's easy to do stuff in Switzerland. I don't want to picture that image either. It's still hard, but at least it's doable. And yeah, that would be my take.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sounds like a very dynamic environment. And you mentioned financial institutions, and that leads me to my next question, which from our Spanish point of view, we can't help but notice that BBVA, it's one of the leading Spanish banks, has been offering blockchain-based services in Switzerland as a custodian, like Metaco, for example, and I'm sure many other players there. And well, obviously, the leading position in regulation in Switzerland allows BBVA to do that. And what can you tell us about not necessarily about BBVA in particular, but how do you assess the engagement and the involvement of the financial sector, the banks in particular, with the tokenization industry?
So I would say that the banking actually topic, as I said, that we have some key stakeholder that provide service worldwide, Signum, SEBA. We have Arab Bank also, for example, here. So we see that there is also a know-how being created, and I believe that's really important, because most of the time it's a question of culture of the bank, but we see that there are some interest, mostly driven also because there are some banks that want to stay in the loop, and they want to stay connected with the next generation, and there are many chances that actually the next generation will be a tokenized one. So I would say that basically the bank regulation enables the crypto custody to happen. We have some clear rules with regard to that. We have also what we call the fintech license, which is some kind of a middle ground for stakeholders that would be not as much or let's say not as much big as a bank, but that would like to play in this kind of in-between role. So we have also this adaptability of the law with regard to the use cases, and especially this light license, as we call it, the fintech license, is also like a key elements within this Swiss regulatory ecosystem. So the custody of crypto asset is possible. Now, let's also say that we have this banking world providing an answer, sometimes also providing an answer at a certain price, because crypto custody comes also with increased compliance. It's difficult. It's a know-how that needs to be rewarded somehow, because otherwise they would not do it. But again, it's one of the way to say that we have bank looking into that and providing services. At least they provide the services, but you also have this no bank approach that is possible in the Swiss law, and I believe that this is super interesting. For example, for people who are really embracing like this cypherpunk type of philosophy, and that wants to be like fully in this DeFi world, I would say. Besides, those leading bank institution that offer crypto custody, we can see that there are also some strong links happening, for example, at the stock exchange level. So we have the main stock exchange in Switzerland, it's called the SIX Stock Exchange, and it's been a few years now. They've been working on with a subsidiary company called SDX, Swiss Digital Exchange, with with the banks in order to create an offer of tokenized securities that would be tradable. They did some bond, for example, with the city of Lugano. So there are many interesting service and offer being developed in Switzerland, notably by the institutional and the one that I just mentioned.
Understood. And you mentioned DeFi, and I would like to go over a little bit how does DeFi fit into the regulatory landscape? And if it does fit, what is the pool that is it having the effect in protocols that may be active in the country?
So it's a tough question, because actually, so if I want to give you the legal answer, is that it depends. Because DeFi is the new keyword to actually sum up like a tons of different activity that could be regulated differently. So long story short, how does it work? We have financial law, and we always wonder, does it fit within financial law? Was it something that we know, or it does not? Most of the time, the regulation is based on the fact that you have a third party, or you have the states needs to have someone providing a service and saying, hey, you're carrying a risk because the service that you provide has, this kind of inherent value in our society, like transferring money and stuff like that. And we're going to regulate you because you're in control. Now, DeFi protocols, sometimes they can be truly decentralized, and sometimes they're not. When they're not, basically they would fall under financial law most of the time, because we'll say, okay, there is no difference. It's a principle of equality. We need to treat similar situation equally, and we try to have same business, same rules, basically. Same business, same risk, same rules. That's the key principle that we try to follow. And DeFi are sometimes really decentralized, and in this case, it becomes quite difficult for the regulator to say, you are falling under my regulation, under this or that type of license. And I believe that's what personally I think very interesting in this DeFi ecosystem, is to say that basically we just decentralize the model, and we try to offer just a service in a way that everything is regulated kind of by algorithms, and we have regulation where it's only bilateral by the end of the day, and not really with a third party playing the role as what we see usually in the regulation, someone being in control or being like central in a certain system. So I would say that it's a complicated answer to give this DeFi question, but long story short, with the Swiss authorities, they have this comprehensive approach to. At the same time, we need to protect the current stakeholder and the current actors of the Swiss financial realm, I would say. But at the same time, we need to give a space for those new stakeholders, because they provide interesting answer to the financial world of today and tomorrow.
Thank you. And now let's go to our last question. I wanted to ask you, as being in the EU, with also forward-looking regulation, maybe not as much, but we have had MiCA, we have had the pilot regime, and I was wondering, how are these sets of regulations perceived from Switzerland? What is, if any, the potential impact that you may see in the Swiss ecosystem by virtue of the fact that the EU is moving along the same path as you?
Mm-hmm. So MiCA is a groundbreaking regulation, not only for Switzerland, but also for the whole world. It's groundbreaking in different senses. First of all, it's very interesting because it creates this level playing field in this supranational level that everyone wants to be. Well, everybody wants to be in Europe because of the market. Like most of the people wants to be in the US because it has a great market. So it creates, this very interesting level playing field. But I would say, and this is a personal note, I believe this regulation by the end will mostly favor the people who have the most money. So it actually really favors the biggest player by setting, what are the rules that, makes them fall under a certain regulation. So it creates some clarities, but at the same time, it puts a higher cost of entering this business. I honestly think that it creates more uncertainties that it solves stuff. For example, we already know that we will have like some interesting jurisprudence for the next 10 years with regard to what the legislator meant. For example, when he excluded NFTs from the MiCA regulation, which is actually not really an exclusion. So we take it from a Swiss law perspective, it affects us. It affects us because we have lots of interaction with the EU, and the EU law creates, this CASP, crypto asset service provider, this CASP really system regulation that has no equivalent really in Switzerland, because we rather let people autonomously decide on how they want to regulate via contractual law. Here we have this kind of over-regulation appearing, and we'll have some difficulties being kind of compatible. By the end of the day, I think it's a regulation that has been a little bit disconnected about what actually the blockchain was proposing. That is actually proposing this global standard. And we can see the law, the MiCA regulation, actually creating this very narrow interpretation with regard to the EU, which will create actually some discrepancies and creates some virtual border everywhere, which was kind of problematic. Besides that, we can also say that the European Union is not a country per se, meaning that there is a ton of things that will need to be solved on the member state level. And this is something, for example, we don't have in Switzerland because we are sovereign, so we take all the decision for ourselves, and we have this. We can create some kind of a bubble. But by the end of the day, I'm afraid that this MiCA regulation will create more and more of a Switzerland bubble, kind of compatible with most of the regulatory environment in the world, but having a little bit some difficulties eventually with this geographically closest market. So overall, I think it was mission impossible to make the perfect law for sure. It's a great effort into making legal certainty, but by the end of the day, there are so many concerns that would need to be raised. In any case, it won't affect us that much in Switzerland because we try to do our own thing, and we're a sovereign country, and we'll still try to achieve and to perform the best we can for having this safe harbor really being the center of competence of vision. We have a global reach. That's what we want, and we don't want to be secluded in small markets. That's really the approach here.
Understood. Yeah, MiCA groundbreaking. Hopefully there will be occasion to improve on it. There are proposals already being moved around and proposed to do that. Let's hope it happens. And we have run out of time. Thank you so much, Gabriel, for being with us and telling us all about the Swiss tokenization ecosystem.
Thank you, Javier.
Take care. That was all for tonight. Please don't forget to follow us on LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and Telegram. Thank you and good night.